Good morning. This is Rich Sierra with Business SOS, the president of Florida Small Business Legal Center here in Boca Raton, Florida. Today, this is episode number 15 of Business SOS. I'm very excited about that. And in the last few episodes, we have been talking about I want to buy a business and the top 10 tips that I like to share with you when you're thinking about buying your business. And last week, we talked about the financials, the corporate records, lease agreements, inventory of personal property that will be included, and any type of employment or labor relation documents. So I'm not going to go over those again, but if you want to review that, go to episode number 14, and basically I'll give you more in-depth, I'll talk more in depth about those individual items that when you're buying a business, part of the due diligence process, you want to request. And also, I want to give you something for listening to me. If you're interested in buying a business and you want to have a copy of my due diligence checklist that I use when I actually representing buyers when they're buying a business, I'm happy to share it with you. Just send me an email at richsierra.com, and just put in the subject matter due diligence checklist, and I'm happy to share that list with you. As a thank you for listening to me today. So today's the second part of the top 10 items or top 10 tips that you want to keep in mind when you're buying a business. And again, these are concepts. These are helpful concepts to you. Each individual business is different. It's not a cookie cutter type approach that when you're going to buy a business, it's like a residential property that you have very specific guidelines you got to go through that they're already set. But in a commercial, when you're buying a business, it's really it's not the same every time. It's very different. So, but we can have some best practices, some guidelines. This is the one I'm sharing with you. So it's not. I don't want you to think this is legal advice to you. It's simply sharing some information that might be helpful to you when you're considering buying a business. So let's get right into it. So one of the things that, whether it's a service business, whether it's retail business, every business has contracts for the most part. So whether it's contract with vendors, contract with customers. So I like to have a list, a copy of the agreements that particular business is getting into with specific customers or with vendors. And there's a two-part to this analysis. And then I have an issue with giving you the contracts because my thing is proprietary. You still have not bought the business. And this is a way to get around that. They can blind the kind of information, the customer's name. They can give you a summary of specifically what the contract is about and the obligations. And if it's a service business, for example, that is subscription-based. So I want to have basically a list of those contracts, and I want to find out how long will those clients be around? How long are they obligated to remain? They're obligated to remain with this business that you're buying. So, for example, if it's a service business, and I'm just going to give you an example of a pool cleaning company. They're very common, especially in Florida. There are a lot of pool companies that service those customers. So when you're buying, for example, a pool cleaning company, you want to find out, what is your client base like? You might have, say, 100 customers paying you $100 a month for just the sake of argument. So as those clients have committed for a year, 2 years, we set a month-to-month contract that the customer can cancel at any time. So if you have a business that, in this particular case, the pool cleaning company that I'm giving you the example, that, when you as a new owner of the company are going to buy into this company, some of those clients may end up dropping because they had the relationship with the prior owner. They just basically, as you buy a business, clients will eventually drop. It's just going to happen. So But you also want to find out, okay, if you're buying this business, how long are they going to stay? How long are they obligated to stay? If they say they sign a 2-year contract and there's a penalty to cancel, there's less likelihood they're going to cancel when the new owner comes in because you bought all those contracts. So I want to find out, how long they're going to stay. And that's something that also helps you determine what type of cash flow you're going to be receiving in that business on a monthly basis as you basically pay for this business. So a copy of those contracts, a summary of the contracts. It could be for attorney's eyes only. There are ways to get around that. If they don't want to release that information, there are ways to get around that. And that's usually an overlooked part of the due diligence process. Is I find out people come to my office and say, I bought this business and they told me they had 75 clients. And then when I bought the business, they only had 35 clients. And then half of those dropped. So I lost my investment. I said, did you ask for a copy of those contracts? No. Did anybody tell you that you need to ask for the copy of the contracts or have assurances that they're going to stay or have some type of their techniques or strategies that we have hold back money in the purchase price to ensure that they will stay there, or if they drop, you have a way of reducing the purchase price. No, we didn't do that. So that's the reason why it's important to have a qualified professional help you with the purchase of a business, because a lot of things can be missed. From the vendor side, a contract is important because you want to know what obligations that business has to others, whether it's a software contract, whether it's a equipment contract, anything that you want, anything that they have to pay a monthly fee to somebody else because it's something that is providing services to a business. You want to know about that and how much. We already talked about lease agreements in the prior segment, but you want to find that out. So I want to copy those contracts. Well, these are the contracts and the obligations. So those for the agreements. I'd like to know the second number. That will be item number 6, contracts from vendors and from customers. The next thing I'd like to know is trademarks and intellectual property. Are they using a mark? Is the mark registered? If it's registered with the USPTO, it's registered with the state. How long have been using the mark? If it's a fictitious name, is it registered? So how are they policing that mark? Is it a mark that other people have and they basically have not worried about protecting the mark? So I'd like to know what trademark they're using, whether it's registered with the USPTO, whether it's a trade name, how long they've been using it. So I'd like to find out information. Obviously, any type of proprietary information they have or trade secrets, I'd like to know. In this particular case, for example, the customer list. At least I'll find out. I don't need to look at the customer list. That's probably not going to allow me to see that as part of the due diligence process before I buy it. But I'd like to know, how many people are on your email list? How often do you update that email list? Do you have a constant contact account? Do you have a MailChimp account? How often, you're communicating with those customers, and also how you obtaining those names. You're buying this list somewhere else or something that you acquired over time. So I'd like to know that. Social media, it goes without saying, is part of your IP. When you're buying the business, you're buying the goodwill, all those social media accounts, I like to have a list of those because that will be part of the purchase. This is very valuable to you as a new buyer. Also, all the email addresses that they're using to communicate with customers, not necessarily the ones that are private for the business owner, but any type of email account that they're using to communicate with customers is also important to know. Telephone numbers, all the telephone numbers that they're communicating with customers, that they're listed in Google My Business, that they're listed in their website. Obviously, the website is part of the IP. The domain names is part of the IP. I want to have kind of an inventory of all that information as well provided, and that we can always obviously double check as well who is the owner, because we need to get all those transferred as part of the purchase. So that goes into trademarks and intellectual property. That'll be number 7. Number 8 will be litigation. And litigation is very important. Oftentimes, the owners may be in the middle of a lawsuit sometimes, and they just don't want to disclose it. They just don't feel comfortable saying it's not going to be your problem. It's not going to affect you. You want to have the questions. You want to ask the question because it could affect you, and that's a different topic. If you buy a business and the business in the middle of litigation, how it can affect you, it can, but that's a different topic altogether. But for the most part, you want to have them disclose any active litigations that they have had in the last 3 years. They're currently in. Any settlement agreements they entered into that they currently might be paying or they might be receiving funds. You want to know that. And fortunately now it's easier to get that information, and we do our own due diligence research and find out if there's any litigations, we can find that out through our online sources. So we'll do that. They need to disclose it, number 1. Number 2, we double check as well to make sure that there's nothing missed there. Sometimes they say, well, it wasn't important. I don't think I need to tell you. If we ask, you got to tell me. But I like to find that out. What it will not be shown in the public records, it will be any type of arbitration claim. If it's done to the American Arbitration Association or any private arbitration, will not show up in the public records. So I like to find that out. Have they been involved in a pre-suit negotiation with anyone? Have entered into settlement agreements with anyone? I like to know that. Also, whether they have any threatened litigation, whether they have received a demand letter for any reason in which the business will be named as a defendant, yet it's not yet at that litigation stage where a litigation has been filed, a lawsuit has been filed, because it will not show up in the public records. I need to know that as well. Have they threatened anybody with litigation? I like to find that out with any type of demand letter. Sometimes they say, you're going to buy the assets, not your problem. If I ask, you got to tell me. Also, whether they are past due with any vendors that yet it's not even in the litigation stage, but it could be. So are they current with other vendors that you later could not find out you get a demand letter because the business did not pay their bills or something happened or there's a dispute? So that goes into the litigation arena as well. Something that I think in the litigation, and I think I might have to jump here a subject. I just thought about an item here is basically whether they had business as any liens, and that's important to know. And you can find out through the Florida UCC, the registry. Say they took any type of EIDL loan, SBA loan, or any type of loan, a commercial loan. Very likely there's a lien on that business for the assets, the receivables. It is very common as having a UCC1. I like to know that as well. So we'll ask them, but we also can verify as well. Actually, I went through some of the topics already here. So number 9, actually, which I combined with number 7, was basically the domain names, social media, and email list. And also the number 10 will be the list of the current clients and active contracts for the last 24 months. So that is important to have that information. And I think I combined them just now as I was doing the presentation. Because you want to know, once you buy that business, and I know there are promises sometimes are made by the owner of the business with good intentions. No worry, I'm going to stay here for as long as you need me. Most likely they'll stay if there's a promissory note involved. That has been my experience. If you owe them money, if they finance part of the purchase price, the business owner who's seller has a vested interest of you doing well because you have to pay that promissory note. If you're buying the business cash, even though with the greatest of intention, they say we'll stay up, a few weeks to help you out. Once that cash is paid, the motivation for that seller is no longer there because it is your business now and you bought it. So just keep that in mind in terms of the learning curve. You want to say, okay, if I buy this business, once I pay the money, what's going to happen next? And there's a lot of transitions that go into transferring the ownership of a business from the seller to the buyer. So you have to keep that in mind as well. Just to recap, just to 10 items top 10 tips that you have to keep in mind when buying a business. And I'm going to give you all of them at once here. Definitely the financials, tax returns, bank statements, loan agreements, all that is including financials, corporate records, articles of incorporation, and any type of amendments. And in Florida, you can go to sunbiz.org, sunbiz.org, and you can basically get the company and get all the corporate, at least anything filed with the state, you can basically download it, you can verify it as well. Lease agreements, and the personal property would be number 4. Number 5, labor relation documents, is employment documents, payroll. Make sure that all the employees have been verified properly. They're eligible to work in the United States. That nobody's being paid under the table. Nobody's being paid cash. Any type of agreements that they have with vendors, anything that they're obligated to pay to someone else, you want to have a copy of those agreements, or at least have an understanding of what exactly they're paying for. If it's a subscription, whatever you want to know that. Trademarks and intellectual property. Obviously, any trade name that they're using, you want to know. Is it registered? Intellectual property. Anything that is proprietary to the business, whether it's a software, customer list, anything that they recipes, if it's a restaurant, anything that's proprietary, you want to have an accounting of that. Litigation, that will be number 8, or threatened litigation. You want to know that as well. That includes also arbitration or settlement agreements, anything that involves a dispute with the business, whether it's in the public record or not in the public record, you want to know that. You want to ask for that information. Domain names for the website, social media, all social media accounts, email lists. You want to basically email accounts. That's part of be number 9. Number 10, list of current clients and active contracts for the last 24 months. That's going to give you an indication of how the cash flow is going to go after you buy the business. So that then you can work on your own performance, but you want to ask that as well. So I mentioned before, if you're interested, and this is a very comprehensive document, I just basically went over the highlights. I have a due diligence checklist, and this is probably about at least 10 pages long, like that. But happy to give you a copy of this. Just email me at rich@richsierra.com, and I'm happy to share this copy with you. I said thank you for listening to me. So this will be the end of episode number 15. Just if you want to reach me, you can send me an email at rich@richsierra.com. If you're interested in learning more about our legal services, you can go to floridasmallbusinesslegalcenter.com. Facebook, we're at FSB Legal. We also have this podcast also being videoed, and you can see in our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/@RichardSierra. We're on Twitter. I guess now it's known as X. It's Rich_Sierra. And Instagram, we're at FSB Legal. If you want to call me, my number is 866-842-5202. Remember that Business SOS, 8 Common Legal Mistakes and Business Owners Make. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can ask for it in the local bookstores. If you liked the podcast, hope you did. Please follow us. Follow the show and give us a review. That certainly will help us in the algorithm suggesting it to other business owners. Share it with your friends as well. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you enjoy your shows. Until next week, this is Rich Sierra. Remember that my goal is to help you succeed.